New tonight, College Football Hall of Fame coach Jim Donnan is charged in an $80 million Ponzi scheme. The UGA legend is accused of swindling millions from fellow coaches, sports commentators, even his own players. None of the victims, investors, or Donnan himself have ever been interviewed before. Tonight, CBS Atlanta's Wendy Saltzman is bringing you the inside interviews you won't see anywhere else.
Jim Donnan may not have been the mastermind behind this scheme, but he was the heavyweight who pulled in nearly $80 million in so-called investments from his friends and colleagues. Donnan allegedly paid himself $14 million, profits the SEC says came straight from the pockets of the sports stars who trusted him. It's the most exciting game in the South, with big hits, big wins, and big paydays. And Georgia's Hall of Fame coach Jim Donnan seemed to have it all. A following of fans, A-list players, and colleagues who at one point trusted everything he said. These people say you swindled them out of millions and millions of dollars. Do you feel any remorse for doing that? We caught up with the coach who had risen to fame. Okay, so the players said that you told them that they could trust you.
I said I have no comment.
But he suddenly fell from grace. The tough question, was it greed or simple ignorance that caused him to con other sports legends into investing their life savings into a losing company?
He either knew it was a fraud or ignored very obvious warning signs that it was a fraud.
The Security and Exchange Commission launched an investigation into allegations Donnan orchestrated a Ponzi scheme for his own profit.
What was represented to investors was that their money would be used to invest in loads, usually truckloads of unsold merchandise.
But their investigation found very little merchandise was ever purchased, making it impossible for the company, GLC, to ever pay the outrageous returns Donnan promised. So Donnan told people you could make a 380% profit on this.
Correct.
Sound unrealistic?
I think those type of profit promises should raise red flags for people. As
Donnan continued to deposit millions into his own bank account, he managed to convince several football and basketball greats they too could reap the rewards. From former Cowboys coach Barry Switzer to Texas Tech's Tommy Tuberville and Virginia Tech's Frank Beamer to former Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker Kendrell Bell and former college football star and coach Mike Gottfried.
And he said I could get in if I chose to. Again, he didn't twist my arm, and I decided to get in.
Gottfried, who has never spoken publicly about this scheme, agreed to speak with me to defend his friend Jim Donnan.
I know the risk. I felt like everything was going great. We had 2 warehouses full of things.
Originally, Gottfried was part of the group who invested early when things were looking good.
A Ponzi scheme is a scheme where the promoters promise investors usually unusually large returns, and rather than having a real business that produces those profits, they just continually solicit new investors and use the new investors' money to pay the profits to prior investors. And ultimately, they always collapse in the end.
And collapse it did. The SEC reports Donnan told players like Bell,
"You're my son, I'm going to take care of you."
I feel bad about it, and I think Jim feels bad about it.
But when we tracked down Donnan, he refused to comment. Coach, this is millions and millions and millions of dollars people trusted you with. I think they deserve some sort of an answer about why they lost so much money. And yet your kids and you profited off of it.
He didn't see at the end, he didn't see what was going to happen. He was trying to help him. I'll believe that forever.
Donnan has filed for bankruptcy and his belongings are being liquidated to try to pay back the money some of these players and coaches lost. The Security and Exchange Commission is also moving forward with their case to prohibit Donnan's involvement in any investment scheme like this ever again. I'm Wendy Saltzman, CBS Atlanta News.